I'm PEMDAS, and I'm going to do a video here about the negative or the deleterious effects of psychoactive mushrooms. While psychoactive mushrooms can cure depression and anxiety, they can also induce anxiety and depression, and in some cases paranoia. The original term for drugs like psilocybin and mescaline was psychotomimetic, which means to mimic psychosis, and in particular paranoid schizophrenia. To put it bluntly, eating mushrooms pretty much causes you to lose your mind. And while this may be fun and amusing for a lot of us, it can be very terrifying to others. Some of the negative effects are anxiety, psychosis, paranoia, you become open to suggestion, personality change, and this can all lead to depression. Anxiety is the first part of the negative experience, as the familiar becomes strange and unrecognizable. The loss of the familiar begins to elicit a sort of paranoia, where a person begins to lose their confidence in what they know to be real or true. They can question their friendships, their family relationships, which then starts to undermine your faith in yourself, and this can start to then affect your personality. Invariably, this could lead to what people think of as an ego death or the annihilation of your personality, and this will change you permanently. And this is not necessarily a good thing. You think of all the people in the 60s who ate a lot of mushrooms and then, or psychedelics, listened to some psychedelic music and turned into hippies. See, eventually when you're losing your mind, your brain will try to make sense of it all, and that's when it starts looking for all these strange thoughts. It'll go off the rails and make new connections, and you may find your brain very hard to turn off, and the thoughts keep coming at you super fast, and some of the thoughts that come at you are pretty scary. A lot of the stuff hiding in our subconscious we keep buried for a reason, and to let it loose when you're not prepared for it is something that can really overwhelm you. Recently I read about a woman who had a psychotic reaction to COVID, and the lady could not stop thinking about how she wanted to decapitate her 3 children. The thought just kept coming into her mind over and over again, and she could not stop it or get it out of her mind. And that's loss of control that a lot of people are not up to. Another thing is the neuroplasticity that happens, is that the same neuroplasticity that allows your brain to be flexible and allows you to lose your fear and your conditioned thoughts, well, you can also then be open to new thoughts, which can then induce new fears. You're also open to suggestion during the session while you do it, and even a few days after. So you might be open to ideas you might normally not ever take seriously while you're not under this sort of a condition. The feelings of openness and compassion, they're fantastic, but they can also be used against you, and you can be overwhelmed with guilt, say for example about something like global warming. You could take on all the sins of the world, but you're not prepared for that. So an open mind is a really great thing, but you need to have a type of filter and not allow yourself to be overwhelmed with guilt. Again, there's that whole thing that took place in the 60s and Charles Manson, and that sort of neuroplasticity allowed people to take on these new thoughts and be flexible, and that's good, but at the same time you can't be too flexible. And lastly, this experience can cause a sort of psychic trauma which can leave a person depressed. Instead of making new connections in your neural net that are actually improving the way you think, you actually make worse connections, and you actually might induce new fears, and you might change your thinking patterns for the worse. There's plenty of people that are in psych wards who took psychedelic drugs and lost their minds and never really kind of came back. I think it's rare, but it happens. Taking drugs is not a trip. It's a trip. It's not a vacation. And even a good trip will have moments of terror. The truth is, you will be a different person after taking psychoactive mushrooms. And the goal is to improve your mind by removing fear, guilt, and in that process, maybe having a little self-forgiveness. And all of this will eventually lead to better relationships, a more positive outlook on life, and a more positive attitude. And I'm not sure you can ever avoid a bad trip. I think you can prepare yourself, and I think you can make any trip a valuable one. And I'll be doing a video on that in the future on ways that I think you can make that possible, which is sort of the goal and whole philosophy of what I'm working towards here. So Just stay tuned, and I'll be talking about that. And check out scottass.org and feel good. Party on.